Hardship and trial. That's the best way to raise kids. Stay tuned for today's episode. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Reach Every Student podcast with me, your host, Jon Bergmann. Hey, I'm coming back after about a week-long break, Thanksgiving break, where I had a chance to just spend a lot of time actually riding bikes and feeling thankful and grateful, getting refreshed. And as I think about what I'm thankful for an amazing family, my amazing students I get to teach at a great school, my wife, who's amazing. Oh man, she's amazing. I'm very grateful. And over this break, I have been thinking about what causes students to thrive. I've thought about that, I've been thinking kind of about my own life. I'm getting older, and what does it mean? What does it look like to thrive? And what has caused me to thrive? And what has caused students to thrive? And it comes down to that word struggle. I think we learn the best through times of trial and difficulty. And I think that the term that I heard about a year and a half ago, something like that, was the idea of productive struggle. I came across this idea. I've done a little research. Turns out in 2007, James Hybert and Douglas Grouse coined the term productive struggle. That came up with this idea. But it's not a new term. It's been around for centuries, really. Plato, Dewey, Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, they all echo that same idea that the way for somebody to truly learn something, to get better at something, there's lots of arenas where this makes sense, is through this idea of productive struggle. Now, you can get to a point where you just struggle, but when you have productive struggle, you're getting slightly better. And I think it's at that point where you're being pushed to a certain point where you didn't think that you could make it, then you did, and then you reach that next hump. And, as a teacher, 40 years, I've seen that with my students. I need to push them to go beyond what they believe they can. In fact, I think I need to believe in them more than they believe in themselves. I mean, they're teenagers in my case, or maybe for your kids, they're younger. You've got these students and they need to go through this productive struggle. And that's such a hard thing. Sometimes we want to coddle our students. We want to always give them grace and be nice to them. And I believe in my students, but sometimes grace isn't the idea. Sometimes we need to push them to be who they can really be. I think that's so important. And as I've thought about this in my own life, a couple examples from my life, your life, I'm sure, you have had similar experiences, but I think some of the best lessons I ever learned in life were in a swimming pool. What? Swimming pool? That's right. You see, when I was in 7th grade, I don't know, or something like that, 6th grade, I joined a swimming team. And at first I wasn't very good. I'd learned to swim as a younger boy. My dad was in the Air Force and we traveled a lot. And then eventually we ended up in Eugene, Oregon. And my older brother joined the swim team, and so did I. And so at first I wasn't very good, and I worked hard, and then I got a little bit of success. Things started to work. I got some coordination, I guess it would be. And I began to say, well, I could be good at this. And then on top of that, I think this is another key component, is I had a coach. I had a coach who pushed me beyond the point at which I thought I could go. And he really expected more of me, and I wanted to perform for him. And so I did. And he pushed me and our teammates beyond what we ever thought was imaginable for the human body. I mean, crazy stuff. I look back, maybe it was too much. For one time, he said, all right, exactly, it was over Thanksgiving break. How's this for interesting? He says, over Thanksgiving break, I'm going to have 2 workouts, 2 days of workouts. They're going to be 2 4-hour workouts a day. So I was swimming 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day, that's right. We were swimming 20 miles a day. When you do the math, it was crazy. We were swimming crazy amounts of yards, and it was 20 miles in the 2 days. I don't know. It was 20,000 yards or 30,000 yards. I don't know. Do the math. 10,000 yards is a 6K. That's 12, All right, so maybe like 15 miles a day. It's like 15 miles a day, 16, something like that. Crazy. We were swimming a lot. And we did this. And then, at first it's like, this guy's crazy. We're so tired. And I eventually became a coach myself. That's probably not great for the human body, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to, because our coach was brilliant with the psychology stuff. We felt if we could do that, we could do anything. And boy, we were quite successful. And we need to get kids to get to that point. It doesn't have to be swimming, it doesn't have to be a sport. We can push them in the classroom, and we need to. And I found, at least for me, is that when I had pushed myself physically, I then believed in myself cognitively. And the reverse can be true too. I mean, I think what we need to do is we define that thing, that hook for each kid that says you can be pushed in this arena, and then you can become great. You can thrive. And speaking of cognitively, another story I've thought of this is in college. So I'm now 20, let's say 19, 20 years old. I was encouraged by somebody to start to journal. The main impetus was that they said, you should, in my spiritual life, you should have a time where you spend concerted time in a devotional time every day. And I was like, I remember thinking, that's dumb. Someone might see me in my dorm, and then that would be weird. And I don't want to be weird, and I don't want to be that radical guy. But then I said, okay. And I did. And I started a journal, and I journaled and journaled. And I started to journal. And right behind me, over here to my right, is lots and lots of journals. It is 42 years later, and I journaled this morning. And that habit of journaling was not easy, especially at the beginning. And to some degree, it still isn't easy, because I've kind of got agreement with myself that if I'm going to journal, I'm going to journal what's really going on. And I'm going to think through what's going on in my life. That sometimes is ugly, because I'm not always a great guy. And I need that journaling, that habit of journaling has reaped rewards in my life that I had no idea they would. I had a coach who said, you can do this, so to speak, a spiritual mentor really, and you can become something more. I believe more in you than you do in yourself. And that journaling led to so many things, good things in my life. I tell my students this story a little bit. When I was in high school, and I was their age, I teach high school students. I remember I teach science, but I was the science geek. I wasn't the kid who was very good at the English and all that stuff. And I remember, being not that good. I remember writing an essay in my high school English class on how stupid the book was that we read. The Importance of Being Earnest, I think is the name of the book, or something like that. And I wrote how dumb the book was. That was my essay. I got to see. And I think back to that English teacher. There's no way she would have ever, never, ever picked Jon Bergmann to be the person who wrote 12 books, who is working on another one. I love to write now, and I think a lot of it stems from a daily habit of journaling for over 40 years. And if you read my books, if you have a chance, you'll note that my books are more of conversational. It's like I'm sitting down and writing my journal, and I'm trying to be honest. I have to be honest with myself. So if you read my books, I'll tell you about my failures too, and the things that I've messed up in classrooms and whatnot. I'm sometimes, as I said in last week's podcast, the students were out of control, and I'd lost them. And yeah, my class was a disaster a couple of days last week. Yeah, that's it. Anyways, back to the topic. Productive struggle is what I'm getting at, is that I believe that in those times of struggle, that's where the students are going to learn. And so I think the takeaway I want us all to be thinking about this week is, what does that look like? How do we create an environment where students productively struggle? How can I create a challenging environment for my students? I don't know your students, I know mine, and I want to create a place where they struggle. And then they overcome. I have to provide the tools. I'm their coach. You are your kid's coach, right? Your student's coach. And you are coaching them to become the best that they can be. And the results that it will reap, you may never know, right? 40 years later, they're going to be making a podcast or whatever it's going to be like in the future. And they're going to talk about you and how you push them. Like I just talked about my coach and my spiritual mentor. Those people changed my life. And you are changing the life of your students, and you'll never see it. Maybe you will. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's so important. And let's transition to the thought about AI too, because this is my big concern with AI, is that it certainly, when used poorly, will take out the productive struggle of learning. And so we have to, as educators, fight this with every tooth or nail, whatever it is, the metaphors, in our body, because we are here to protect and to help our students thrive. If we don't protect them from the dangers of AI, that's on us. And we don't want to harm future generations. Our goal as educators should be to help our students to become those who thrive. And that means we need to put them in environments where they struggle, and we push them to become the best that they can be, where we believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And I'm not, again, let me say carefully, I'm not against AI. I'm not saying AI is, the boogeyman and it's the worst thing since ever. There are parts of it that will be very bad, I'm afraid. But to the degree that we teach our students how to use AI in a way that will help them thrive, that will push them to be better than they are. I've been using AI for a number of things recently that have been really good, where I've been asking it for thoughts on how to respond to a certain kind of an email. And it's never given me a perfect answer, but it's given me some good ideas. It's a good brainstorming partner, I guess, what it's been for me. But again, I also know that I am an expert at what I do, and I am not working with experts in the classroom that I'll see tomorrow. They are novices, and I want them to go through this productive struggle so that they can be the students who thrive, who one day write books, who one day become the leaders of the world, who invent new things, who whatever who knows what's going to happen in this age of AI as the technology explodes. And yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about in the last week, is how do we help our students thrive? And I think the answer is struggle and hardship. We need to provide opportunities where they will have struggle and go through hardship. Again, think about this. You think of the biographies of great people, and this is one of my weird hobbies, is I love to read biographies. If you think of Abraham Lincoln, he went through great struggle. He only became a great person because of that. Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. She was a brilliant scientist. She had to go through great struggle. She had to overcome the fact that science was thought of as not a thing for women. And there's so many amazing people. And when you look at their lives, it is through that act of struggle that they became the amazing humans that they became. So what are we going to do with our students? We want to provide struggle. Now, again, not in a way that we're going to just demoralize them and hurt them. Don't do that. Do not do that. But we provide opportunities where they get to struggle. So with us helping them, coaching them, so that they come on the other side and they believe that they really can set the world. They can do it. They can do anything they want in the world. So anyways, my thoughts this week on the episode of the Reach Every Student podcast. Hey, if you love this podcast, hey, hit the subscribe button. Hey, enjoy. Jon Bergmann out.